Yeah. Just looking at some of these other nations. Yeah. Could you call Russia for me? Seems to be a little city there called Moscow where the Kremlin is. You know, I myself have been friending a lot of people that are in the Russian Orthodox Church. Yes. And they seem to be somewhat influential. But I'm concerned that there are some Russians that want America white. I actually would like it if, well, in the next 20 years, that it was more like 50% white, 20% Hispanic, 20% African American, and 10% other ethnicities. Maybe use my sexuality as a influence, yes, in the want to. Is the Kremlin doing anything right now? Could you get me all of those elected to office in Moscow? You know, with the number of persons that have friended me in Russia, I seem to be attracting more Russian persons that are involved in religion than large-breasted women that want to volunteer. You know, St. Basil's Cathedral, Russian church, famous for its many colorful onion-shaped domes. Oh, is in Red Square. Is it possible? Oh, you got a palace named the State Kremlin Palace, the Palace of Congresses. A lot of people working there in Moscow, are they? That's like the big hub of activity of the Russian government. Could you could you get me all those elected to office in Russia? Now, I'm having a little problem over here on this side, getting the government to enforce the actual laws of the United States. And considering all these Russian Orthodox priests that I'm happy to be friends with, yes, quite often I'll tag them when I'm posting my YouTube videos, thinking that the Russian Orthodox Church finds it funny that nobody in the United States of America, these uh, these Russian Orthodox, yeah, just give me all of those in the Kremlin. Now, I know I said I would never sue the Russian people and I wouldn't sue Russia as a nation. I wouldn't do it. I wanted to invest approximately $400 billion dollars in the oil industry in Russia. And I know you got a lot of money. Okay. There was no crisis when you raised the interest rate up to 15% approximately 2.5 years ago. I'm sure everybody in Russia wanted to refinance their houses after that. You know, if it happens in Russia, what's to say it wouldn't happen in the United States? Now, oh, Christ the Savior Cathedral, rebuilt in 1997. You know, a lot of these Russians that I find so attractive, because I'm planning on having babies with them. Yeah, I wanted to get all the palaces and castles in Russia, and then just get me all the residents of Moscow. Oh, 11.5 million people. That's bigger than the state of Minnesota. In fact, if you put Mississippi and Minnesota together, they wouldn't have that big of a population. I know. The Russian army. You have a navy over there too. I've seen some of these movies about the Russian navy, how they have submarines and they go scooting around underneath the water. An air force? I don't think so. I had seen on television where the Ukraines, where they were doing these joint maneuvers with the United States Air Force. We wanted you to know that you don't have an air force. I know that's upsetting to a lot of generals in the United States. Now, I'm not trying to cause concern to the Russian Air Force. I'm sure it's something we don't really hear about it over here. You got a few planes, enough to cover the whole of Russia because as I look at your nation, it's somewhat large. Are you sure that you have enough planes? Is there anybody in Russia that I should know about right now? The Russian Air Force. If I was to fly from Moscow, yes, all the way across Russia to, well, Mongolia is in China, isn't it? Yes. What's that? Oh, Serbia, where you the Gulag. Oh my gosh, look at that. The Russian prisons. What's Russia doing right now? I don't think they're influencing the elections because I think America's doing a good enough job themselves. Russia wouldn't influence their own elections, would they? I'm sure the Russian people are being Wouldn't that be comical? The President of the United States accuses Russia of influencing the elections of the United States of America while all the time they were actually influencing their own elections. The Kremlin's not. I know. Over here, we hear about it all the time. How Russia gives a shit about what America does. But I think that you mean the United States? You're in cahoots. It's not that the Russian people have actual representation in the Kremlin, those elected oaths. I've been emailing them, sending them grievances and emails instead of actual letters. I asked the whole United States population to send a letter to their local police department. What are the Russians doing? Oh, is is postage from Russia? Why don't all the Russians send a letter to the local law enforcement? You know, I heard that the post office doesn't know where the sheriffs or the police departments are. Yes. You can't send it general delivery to the sheriff's department. The You know that. There's no possible way that the United States Post Office knows where the actual police or sheriff's departments you have to have. And when you have to have the actual address, I know you don't have any internet over there. In fact, you know what? I sent an email to myself. Does Russia know where all the back doors are? I got to thinking about a woman that I wanted to give a lot of, I call them backdoor women. You ever known a woman that never locks her back door? You could walk in, she's cleaning the house, she's taking care of the kids, she's whatever. You walk in the back door, she's like, "How you doing?" "Good." Backdoor women that always leave the back door open for any house that I provide for them. Now, sometimes I surprise them about once a month during ovulation. I happen to end up there. They put the kids to bed and we spend all night together just talking about what it's like being a backdoor woman. But I got to looking at the holographic memory pooch, of different types of data storage. Yes. Could you find out where Russia has its data storage? The the Russian Air Force? I don't think you're as good as the American. That's why we were over there in Ukraine showing them how to fly planes.